Good morning. On days 30 to 52 of our daily Bible studies, we've been looking at the way that writers in the Bible understood creation and the human being's place in it. And today we come to one of the lovelier, but also one of the more puzzling Psalms. I'm going to be reading to you now from Psalm 24, verses 1 to 10. The earth belongs to the Lord and everything in it. A Psalm by David. The earth belongs to Yahweh and everything in it, the whole world and those who live upon it. He built it above the deep waters below. He laid its foundations in the deep. So, who has the right to ascend the hill of Yahweh? Who is allowed to enter his holy temple? People whose actions and thoughts are clean. People who do not worship idols or make false promises. Yahweh will bless them and save them. God will declare them to be innocent. This is what people are like who come to God. These are the people allowed into the presence of Jacob's God. So fling the gates wide open, open up the ancient doors, so that the great King can enter. Who is this great King? It is Yahweh, strong and mighty, Yahweh who wins battles. So fling the gates wide open, open up the ancient doors, so that the great King can enter. Who is this great King? Triumphant Yahweh, he is the great King. How are we to read this psalm? It starts like a nature poem. Then it moves the scene from the land to the temple and asks who is allowed in. And finally, it celebrates the arrival of God himself at the temple doors. Its Hebrew title, a psalm by David, on the face of it seems like an anachronism. As in David's time, around 1000 BC, there was as yet no Jerusalem temple, and no ancient doors to fling wide existed. Some have suggested that this psalm was written not by David but later, once the temple was old enough to have ancient doors, written for a procession into the Jerusalem temple, a procession symbolizing the presence of God amongst the people, perhaps a festival when the Ark of the Covenant was carried in through the doors, with God's symbolic throne on the top of it. The psalm starts outside, with the affirmation that the world is a deliberately created world made by the God who is about to be worshipped. Then it asks who qualifies to worship this God in this ancient sanctuary. It is people whose hearts are pure and whose actions match. Then the choir asks for the doors to open, and the ark enters the holy place, accompanied by the people. This God, who is celebrated, is the God who brings victory and safety to his people. Now, when we Christians enter a church building for worship, we too come in from outside, and we bring in from there not just the bread and wine which we use to symbolize God's presence, but also ourselves, knowing we come in bearing the bruises of the world and the knowledge that, unlike those in the psalm with their good qualities, we cannot attain perfection. That is why our services nearly always begin with an acknowledgement that we are imperfect, asking for God's forgiveness. But that is not the most important thing we come for. We ask God to come and be with us, just as the worshippers did in the temple long ago. And like them, we come in a spirit of thanksgiving for God's mighty acts amongst his people. Well, tomorrow we we now move into the prophets, and we come to the prophet Isaiah and his amazing vineyard imagery. Israel is Yahweh's vineyard, and we hear what he has to say about that tomorrow. See you then.